Welcome everyone to another episode of The Inside Word. My name is Lachlan McLean from Beer Cartel, Australia's #1 craft beer retailer. Got a fantastic episode lined up. Today we're chatting to Dave Bonighton, one of the co-founders of Mountain Goat, who's going to tell the story of their amazing brewery. One of the first to come out of Australia back in 1997. It's an absolute cracking listen. Can't wait for it. But first up, got our weekly listeners prize. So this week was a prize for one of our Beer Cartel glasses. Lucky winner of that is Lachlan Crombie. Congratulations on winning that. That'll get sent out to you. For those out there, listen through the episode. You'll hear a code word. Go to the link in the description. Put it in. And this week's prize is a Mix 6 put up by Mountain Goat. So, yeah, really good prize. That'll get sent out to you if you're a lucky winner. But let's get into it. Like I said, Dave Bonighton. It's a great listen. I hope you enjoy. Thanks so much for joining me today, Dave.
Thanks, Lachlan. It's great to be here.
Before we kind of get into Mountain Goat's story, what have you been up to? You just told me you've been on some little bit of holidays?
Summer, yeah, it's good. Like it's the best time to hang out in Melbourne. You know, the weather's good for once.
Yeah, right.
We're in New Zealand for a bit. Just really
nice.
laying back.
Outside of beer, what do you usually get up to?
I like to get in the ocean as much as I can, surf here and there, fish a little bit. I like to eat
nice.
yummy things, but
nice.
Nothing.
So for this podcast, what I want to do, like some of our other brewery stories, but it's go right back. And I guess the Mountain Goat story goes back a lot further than a lot of other breweries, especially in Australia.
Yep.
So early, I guess mid-90s actually, would be kind of when you started getting the craft beer. But how did it all happen, your passion for beer?
I think beer came for me. I was living in the US. I did a couple of years of college over there, and craft was well underway in the early 90s. Then I was on the East Coast, and Brooklyn Brewery was just kind of firing up, and there was a few others you could get. Anchor Steam over there a little bit, and just fell in love with the flavors, hops, malt. You could have all these things, and they were all in a drinkable beer as well.
Right.
Aussie lagers. So it was a real eye opener.
Were you home brewing or were you a drinker?
I was a drinker at that point, and then came home back to Oz through Europe and drank all their magnificent beers as well, and kind of came home early 90s to Australian lager, heavy beer and light beer. That seems to be all the choice there was. So that's when the home brewing started. I was just trying to make those styles I've been drinking overseas.
Did you fall in love with, I guess, the hops of like America, the pale ales and the IPAs, or was it like Europe with like the Belgium-y kind of styles, or what was it?
There wasn't a definite style I fell in love with. I just fell in love with the whole thing. I think what was great about beer is that there is a beer for every occasion. I think there's light.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beer, you can have on a hot day, and there's a big chewy imperial stouts you can drink in winter too. And I think that's the thing that captured me, and that was the thing that got me so into homebrewing as well, because you weren't just making the same thing. You could make hundreds or thousands of styles.
Were you working in another industry? Like, what were you doing kind of at this time? Were you just finished uni, or?
Yeah, I was in finance, in banking and finance. So I was actually with NAB for maybe I lasted 3 or 4 years straight out of uni with them. But all along I was homebrewing at that
right.
time. So yeah.
Was there ever a moment where I talk to a lot of brewers, and people have opened breweries, and there's sometimes that moment where you go, I want to open a brewery, I want to do this kind of full time. Was there that moment for you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. My partner at the time, Cam, was he was full time working on it, and I was kind of working my way out of the bank. So I was full time in the bank, and then I went part time and edged my way out. But there was always that dream of this wants I want this to be my job.
Yeah, right. I know there was something on when I was reading and doing some research when Cam sent you a card saying to open a brewery.
It's the postcard saying we got to talk when I get home, Dave, and I had no idea what he was talking about because I'd been homebrewing. I first met Cam through a mate, and he didn't really like beer. He put a wedge of lime in his Carlton Cold or a shot of raspberry. It was embarrassing. He loves me telling that story too. But, then he went overseas. He went to Vancouver at the time, and obviously craft was massive there, and the penny dropped for him as well. And we both thought Melbourne's a great food town. It's a great hospitality city, great bars, great restaurants, great coffee, great wine, bread, all these things. But beer was just, it was the elephant in the room. It had to happen at some point.
Yeah. So I guess this is the best part of 25 years ago now.
Yeah. It's ridiculous
for people out there. We've been pretty lucky in what a lot of breweries I've spoken to. Might have opened up 3, 4, 10 years ago at best. But back then, I guess. What was the inspiration like? Were you looking at another brewery going, yeah, that's who we want to follow? Or were you just having to kind of work it out as you go?
There wasn't really one brewery we looked up to. I think it was just the movement. I think we just saw that craft beer had to happen, especially in Melbourne, we thought. So there was no real specific beer or specific brewery. It was more just the concept, which we were both passionate about beer, but at the same time we were really passionate about creating a business around it as well. So that was a real mix of those two things.
Yeah, right. So I guess nowadays, if people want to go, you speak to brewers that are opening up breweries, they kind of will see what other people are doing, and they might buy a little kit or contract and start producing beer. For you guys, it was very different because there wasn't a whole lot of other breweries you could go ask to brew your beer for, or go and I know you had so I know you did stuff with Grand Ridge, but it was very, very different kind of way of going about it. So how did it all start?
The inspiration came, or the learning on the job was key. It was just getting in there and doing it. I think we knew what good beer tasted like, and we knew what we wanted to make. So it was working back and just learning as much as we could. And if we couldn't learn from other breweries or other people in the industry, because the industry didn't really exist then, we just kind of learn on the job.
Yeah, right. Like
mistakes early on too.
Yeah, were you just using like a little 50-litre homebrew system, or like what were you kind of just brewing?
We never. Certainly with the homebrew side, we never sold any homebrew. We always used a brewery. We contract brewed at Grand Ridge in the early days, and that was kind of an 800-litre batch a month. So it was bugger all beer, and we just happened to get a bit of a following at the Great Britain Hotel in Richmond, and from there we kind of had the balls to spend money and buy a brewery.
In that 2-year period where you were brewing out of Grand Ridge, I think a lot of things nowadays people kind of take advantage of if you're contracting, you kind of go in and brew your beer and it just turns up and it's all ready to go, labelled, capped, everything. If you're doing it yourself, you've got a bit of automation. It wasn't like that for you. What was the, for those couple of years when you were at Grand Ridge, you got to paint the picture of, what you guys had to go through?
Okay, I actually became the head brewer there after about 6 months of contracting, because the brewer there hurt his back at the time, and he was around to ask questions with, but I was actually in there and I just had to do it. It was real sink or swim stuff then. And the beauty of the Grand Ridge thing was they had such a huge range of beers as well. They got a Pilsner and a light beer and an Imperial Stout and Moonshine and all those great beers. So I got to not only learn how to brew one style, but all these other styles on a commercial sized brewery. So I mean that experience was invaluable. And hard work too. It was really hard work.
I'd imagine. And then I think you were brewing it, and then Cam was running it back to hand label everything.
Yeah, he was doing the sales stuff, so he would drive down on a Wednesday or a Thursday, pick up our week's supply of beer, which was it might have been 5 kegs and 20 cases of beer, and that's what we sold.
Yeah, right.
And he would just be pounding the pavement, selling it. So it was tough. And they were dark times for craft beer. So we had to actually sell the concept of craft beer because it didn't really exist in those days. There was imported beer, there's premium beer, and there was mainstream beer.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as craft beer.
And and your first style that you sold wasn't exactly a lager or pale ale; it was your amber ale.
No. I mean that was part of the point. I mean, we saw no reason to create another lager or a light beer. So we wanted it to look different. So we made an amber ale, and Hightail Ale was that beer. It's not that challenging a beer. Looking back now, it's a 4.5%, pretty clean amber ale. But back then it was a crazy concept.
Oh yeah, I guess for people out there, this is before Little Creatures. It's before James Squires. Yep. I think maybe Matilda Bay might have been around.
Yeah. But, those guys were around, for sure.
But it was before there weren't many breweries floating around. Like I know when we started in, this is for us, it's only 10 years ago. There was still only like 50 or 60 breweries back then. So back in the early 90s, there might have been 20 breweries, 25 breweries, 30 breweries.
I think there were 32. I think rings a bell. And what are we up to now?
700 and something.
700 or something. Yeah, it's awesome.
That's gone crazy. So after brewing out of Grand Ridge, doing a bit of contract, you finally decided to open up your own place.
Yep.
How did that go about? I know, getting the funds for that wasn't exactly easy.
No. It wasn't that hard though. I think we had a lot of friends. Our parents were involved at one point. We had some runs on the board in those 2 years. We had a bit of a drinkership. We'd won a big award at the AIBAs. I think in '99 or 2000 we won Champion Draft. I think.
Yeah, right.
I think that they called it that. So we kind of had a bit of a name. So and there was the underdog story. These guys are having a crack and it's beer, and so there was all that romance around that. So we got the money reasonably easily. I mean, it wasn't obviously it wasn't easy, but we set up a brewery by buying an existing plant and moving it to our place in Richmond. It was a 15 hec brewery. We bought, I think it had 3 fermenters and a bright beer tank as well. But yeah.
Yeah, that's one big question I was going to ask was, nowadays I think we take it a bit for granted that, if you want a new kit, you kind of just ring them up and order it up. Back then, was it? Yeah. I guess, was it the same, or like you said, you bought it from a brewery? Like, how'd you get that?
Yeah, look, we were always going to buy a second-hand kit at start because we just didn't have enough money. We weren't prepared, I think, to go out and raise $500,000 or $1 million. So we really did it on a shoestring early on, and it happened to be that the G-Bungs. The G-Bung Polo Club's brewery was up for sale at just the right time, so we snaffled it. So it was good timing, and it wasn't. And we used that brew house all the way through till 2011 when we bought our DME kit. So it did such a great job.
Another thing, I guess, part of in the kit and in just brewing in general, we probably take it for advantage a lot nowadays is, I guess, automation. There was I was reading about you didn't get your first automated bottling line till 2005. 2 million bottles already under your belt, all hand filled, labeled, capped. How much work went into that? It
was work, but it was also heaps of fun at the same time because we had our friends around. It was a real community. oftentimes we do it at night when our mates were off work. We paid them and stuff, but it was just because it was just so random and so sporadic for the bottling days. We really got a crew of friends and family to help us. So although it took forever and it was monotonous, I think because we were friends and there was a community around it, the time went quick and it became fun.
Yeah, right. And like,
It was beer too. At the end of the day, we're not making widgets here, so
and I guess with the beers that you do, I think the ones that you probably come most known for in the last, last little while, the beer that kind of made everything for you was, I know you got the limiteds. We'll go into that in a bit, but was the steam ale.
Yep. Yes.
Steam ale. I guess for a lot of people, what is this? What is steam ale?
Steam ale was our take on a steam beer. Like a steam beer is an old traditional German Dampfbier. They would pronounce it, where they would brew a lager, but brew it kind of quickly, and just to get a drinking, quaffing beer out, they wouldn't take the 6 to 8 weeks that they would normally take with a lager. So a steam beer was kind of a quick and easy session ale kind of thing, although it was a lager in Germany, obviously. But we kind of put our spin on it by turning it upside down, by making it an ale and then doing it cooler. So a traditional ale, a session beer or a pale ale would ferment at kind of 21 degrees, say, but we cooled that down and fermented it as an ale to kind of 16 to 18 degrees. So the idea was that we still had an ale, but it was a softer, kind of less estery, fruity ale. So it was a bit of a smasher at the same time. Yeah, I actually resisted the concept of making a more mainstream style of beer for ages. I just thought, we're not here to make these mainstream styles or easy drinking styles. We're here to make challenging beers. But as soon as we did make steam ale, it changed our business overnight, and it kind of, I think, coincided with craft beer finally clicking within the consciousness of beer drinkers in Australia. We think sometime around the spring of 2011 is when craft just went click. The light went on.
Yep.
And that was around the time we created steam ale. So I don't know what came first, but
it was a perfect storm.
It definitely changed our business.
So I guess you talk to a lot of breweries, and they'll generally have that one beer that kind of is the I don't want to say flagship, but kind of the one that drives a lot of the sales. I guess steam ale, is that for you?
Yes. Although I think that's that's changing. Our new lager called Goat is kind of taking over from that now.
Yeah, right.
So it's going gangbusters.
I mentioned before, like limited releases. You became very well known for rare breeds.
Yes.
Plus a few others, crossbreeds, inbreeds, and barrel breeds. Has that always been kind of, you talked about making challenging beers, but has that always been kind of one of your passion areas of all those limited releases?
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's the fun stuff. If you're a brewer, the last thing you want to do is get up and make the same beer every day. And you want to make a beer that you want to drink at the end of the day, I think. And rare breeds, we've always given ourselves freedom, and the brewers enough freedom to make whatever they want. And I think lately it's been IPAs. There's a love of hops in the brewery the last kind of few years. I think Alana especially is making. She's a complete hop head, and she's making great IPAs. But that's the really fun stuff, and that's the creative stuff, and using new ingredients and just pushing the boundaries. That's key.
And then you've got just for people out there, like you've got a whole different series. So you've got rare breeds, which is your limited releases. You might release, 4 a year. Crossbreeds, inbreeds, and barrel breeds. What are they?
So crossbreeds are collaborations. So that's so much fun as well to learn from other brewers. We're so lucky. We've got a helpful and nurturing community of brewers as well. We actually talk to each other. We learn from each other, and there aren't that many industries like that. I think inbreeds are where one brewer takes complete responsibility for a beer.
Yep.
What else is there? Barrel breeds obviously spend some time in a barrel, usually a whiskey barrel, and they're usually high alcohol beers. So we're actually mainly about extracting the whiskey out of the wood and then creating those flavors within that. So those beers are generally big, like imperial stouts or barley wines or things like that.
In terms of beer as well, we'll talk about the bottling line before, but one thing that you guys did before, I think Coopers might have done it just before, but was can. Nowadays that is such a common, well, not even a common thing. It is the thing for us. Like cans have just gone absolutely bonkers. But cans for you, why did you can in the first place?
We just thought it was a different occasion to have a beer. We didn't prefer cans over glass. It was just that we thought, music festivals, camping, going away, cans were not cool at that point, and we kind of liked that as well. And we had this concept of a summer ale, really light, golden beer you would drink at a festival. That was the occasion. And we were going to do it a year earlier. I think we did it in 2012, the first run. It was with Asahi because we were at this point we were contract brewing with Asahi because we'd run out of capacity in Richmond, and they obviously had a canning line, and the opportunity was there. And but the run size for a canning run was really big, and I think in 2010 or 2011 we were just too daunted by the amount of beer we'd have to brew, so we left it for a year, and then we did it in 2012. And we ended up having to do 3 runs.
Oh wow!
I think it just bananas.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I probably did a decent dent in that. I remember coming out and it was so great. It was so, like you said, perfect vessel for like camping and all that sort of stuff. And have you been surprised at how the cans have taken off?
Oh, totally. Yeah, there was nothing. There was nothing to suggest at the time that it would completely take over.
And you're in the transition of moving to cans, all of it or some of it?
No. I think we'll always have a mix of both. I think you'll probably see more cans from us as we go on, but there'll be. I think we'll probably have we'll probably see steam ale in cans and glass. For instance, I think summer ale will always stay in a can only, though. I think. But
what about the limiteds?
I think we're kind of working on a thing called the North Street range as well. So the ones that are coming out of Richmond as opposed to Asahi, they'll be more of a rare breed in style, but not in a long neck.
Yeah, okay.
And they'll be 90%.
Yeah, nice.
Cans. So we've got a canning line these days in Richmond too, which is great.
Oh, awesome. You mentioned Asahi there, so I wanted to touch on it.
Yeah.
Back in 2015, I think, was it?
Yes.
So Asahi, bought Mountain Goat, or bought in.
Yep.
I want you to paint the picture. I guess it's kind of a bit of a hot topic going around at the moment, and I think Mountain Goat you're one of the first. From your perspective as an owner, are you able to paint the picture of kind of where you guys were at, what was kind of going on, and the reasons behind it all?
I think for Cam and I, it was time. I think we'd been doing it for 20 years or so. We were and we'd been working with Asahi for a long time. I think we started with them in it was 2010 or 2011. So we knew them, and they knew us obviously. And I think the fit was just there. It was either Cam and I taking on more risk, putting our balls on the line and investing millions and millions of dollars and going again, or using a partner like Asahi. And I think we chose that. It was just it was just a mix of those things, and the 18, 20 years in the industry. It was time. It just felt right.
Yeah, right. I guess when that all kind of goes through and the paperwork's being signed and all that sort of stuff, and everything gets processed, from yourself personally, does anything change for you? Does your role? Were you still involved in the brewing? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm still involved now. I don't do much hands-on stuff, but there's not been a huge change in the personnel in Richmond. For instance, the guy who runs it now was our financial controller back in those days. So they're all goat folks, So, and that's what I mean. That's why I still hang around. We're still making beer. The people are still great.
oh, absolutely. I think your, especially like your rare breeds and just the beers in general, your IPA, like they're just byword for quality. And I think I think some of the limited releases, since then, I think have some of them got better. Like they're just,
You're right.
they're amazing. Like
Yeah, we're really proud. We're really proud of the beers that are coming out of the place now. So it's all good. It's a good story.
I think you have. I've been to the brewery down there. And I think you've also got one of the best tap rooms going around as well.
That's good.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
On kind of, you mentioned personnel there and goat personnel. One thing I've noticed, so I've been in the industry nearly 7 years, and every brewer that I talk to, or breweries that I talk to, or people opening breweries, four names usually come up of where they learned to brew, or they went through, and it's generally Little Creatures, Matilda Bay, Holgate, or yourselves.
Okay.
The amount of brewers that I speak to that have either come through your gates or learnt of you or have some connection. Does that make you guys feel good? Kind of,
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is a factor of being early and being, some brewers around, of course. But of course, and some of those guys, that have come out of our place have gone on to do awesome things. Jane at Two Birds and Tommy doing
Fixation,
his pop obsession. It's awesome. So and that makes us really, really, really proud too.
So I guess before we wrap it all up, for Mountain Goat,
Yes.
you've had best part of 25 years in the industry going on now. What can we see in the future? What's kind of in the pipelines, and where do you hope to see it going?
I think just more innovation, more experimentation. We love the barrel breeds that are happening now. Exciting thing is still is coming in. We're going to start making dabbling in spirits as well.
Nice.
That's on the horizon as well. But it's just all about having fun, experimenting, and pushing the boundaries of beer and now spirits too.
Yeah, what sort of spirits are you going to look in? I'm guessing whiskey is going to be high on the list.
Well, whiskies, I think we'll sock some whiskey away in a barrel. I think it just takes a long time, so we won't see that anytime soon. I think gin and probably rum as well, I would think. But it'll always come back to a beer. There'll be a touch point of beer. The spirit will have been in a barrel that's had beer in it. Something like that, or the gin will have hops in it. So there'll always be a frame of beer around these spirits. So.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting. I guess last but not least, one thing I probably should have touched on a bit earlier. You've won a lot of awards. I know back in the Hottest 100 this year. I know you've won many awards at AIBAs.
Yes.
I think you've won best beer. You've won best everything. You've probably taken out at least once. What do they mean to you? And kind of, is that kind of just a little, what do they mean?
Look, I love the industry and I love the people in the industry. Beer judging is an awesome thing. I've done that a lot as well, and I know what it takes to get through beer awards. So to be recognised by this great this great industry and the people in that system. It's a really good affirmation that we're doing this is the right thing. So, I mean, we don't specifically brew beer for awards, but when you go about your business and you win awards, that's really cool. It's great.
Just a recognition that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to chat about the Mountain Goat story. It's been great to talk about, going all the way back 25 years, and hopefully we'll see another 25 years of Mountain Goat.
Yes, for sure.
Thanks much for joining me, Dave.
Welcome.
Cheers.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you so much, Dave, for taking your time out to chat about the Mountain Goat story. It is one of the most fascinating stories going around in the craft beer in Australia, from sleeping in your cars to taking it out and hand bottling. I can't believe that you put up 2 million hand bottled, filled and labelled bottles in your time before you've got automatic line. It was absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much again. To those out there listening for the code word for this week is Richmond. So go up into the description of the podcast, go to the link, put it in, go into the running to win a Mix 6 put up by Mountain Goat. So thank you so much to them. I hope you all have enjoyed listening to the podcast. If you want to stay up to date with these podcasts, if you just want to go to iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcasts, so hit subscribe. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.